Thanks so much for talking to us, Nasser. We're in Rio. You've watched this World Cup, you've experienced this World Cup unfold. What have you made of it?
It's just been incredible. The World Cup has, the level of football has been great. I think things went smoothly. I even think that some of the criticism that Brazil got prior to the World Cup was to its advantage. People dropped maybe their expectations. I mean, for me, and a lot of fans that I've spoken to have said that, there's long travel distances, but things worked. Airports were fine, planes were on time, and things just worked. Getting to the stadium, getting out of the stadium. Overall, I think it's just been a terrific tournament.
What lessons have you learned from it? What lessons will Brazil have learned?
Look, I can't speak on behalf of Brazil. I'm sure there's a lot of things. When you organize an event, back of house, the organizers always see things that didn't go right. And more often than not, the spectators don't see that. So there'll always be self-criticism. There'll always be things that they see that are wrong that nobody else notices. So I'm sure for them, they're going to say that we could have done this and this better. I mean, look, obviously there was some delays with the stadiums. That's no secret. At the end, it was pulled off. At the end, it was a great World Cup. I think one thing that we should take back from this is, early coordination. I think FIFA have also recognized that from 2010, 2014, there have been some important lessons learned that they want to make sure that they pass on to us. They have a very good transfer of knowledge program, project management program that has been up and running for several years right now. So we're looking to capitalize on that because that's where the database and that's where they're capturing all the information and where they have all the improvements going forward. And I think we're going to take that seriously.
You have your own set of pressures building up to the tournament through the years. But Brazil had the pressure of expectation from the public for their team to succeed. At least that's one thing that you don't have to be concerned about.
Well, everybody has their challenges. Brazil, they have a renowned football team throughout history. When the World Cup is on their home ground, everybody is going to definitely expect that their team performs and win. And it was unfortunate, I mean, for me personally, that they didn't. But this was an amazing World Cup in terms of people making it through that you didn't expect, people being disqualified early on, which you didn't expect. So I think it was a good tournament, I think, overall. And yeah, that was definitely a pressure for Brazil being the host country, that their team performs and wins.
When the tournament started and the entertainment started, people really embraced it. When are people going to embrace the Qatar 2022 World Cup?
Look, I think people are embracing it. However, unfortunately, what makes the headlines isn't the good stuff. So there's a lot of people that are embracing it. I mean, I've witnessed it firsthand just during this World Cup. We've launched our first open-air, cooled fan zone to broadcast the World Cup. We started broadcasting from the round of 16 onwards, and just it was amazing. I can't describe it. The amount of people that were there, the amount of interaction we got on our social media regarding the fan zone, the amount of people that when they heard about it just wanted to attend. Unfortunately, we couldn't accommodate everybody. It wasn't a very big fan zone. It was mainly a test site for us. It was to test open realm cooling technology for public spaces, and our test was fabulous. 13 degrees on average less inside than it is outside. Humidity outside was in the range of 85 on average. Inside on average is about 60 to 65. So these were perfect conditions to watch the game. There was a lot of entertainment, and just it was fantastic. And this is just locally. There is a lot of anticipation for the World Cup in Qatar, and I think there's a lot of people there that are positive about it, and there's a lot of people that are excited about it.
There's been so much negativity elsewhere recently. Is that demoralizing for you and your team?
It's not demoralizing. It gets old after a while, I think, but we get more confident. We become more resilient. We grow tougher skin. And I think we're looking forward to proving people that a World Cup in the Middle East is well deserved, and that it's time for the people of the Middle East to have their first World Cup.
Qatar 2022 is part of a very serious ethics committee investigation headed by Michael Garcia. How worried are you about what he'll find, what he has found, what he'll say?
Let me correct you, Lee. First of all, it's actually an investigation into the bidding process of the 2018-2022 World Cup.
But Qatar part of that?
So yeah, Qatar is part of that. Russia 2018 is part of that. The whole process is part of that. Everybody involved in that is part of this investigation. So it's unfortunate that people single out Qatar every time they discuss it, which is absolutely not the case. We've been true to what we've said in the past. Our statements that we've always put out, that we've held ourselves to the highest ethical standards, stem from our heart. We believe it, we're confident of it, and we're confident of how we've behaved.
But people do single you out, and this is a point that I've made, that it is an overall investigation, but they do single you out. The crucial element is the relationship between your committee and Mr. bin Hammam. What was that relationship? Was there collusion between you? Was he acting on your behalf?
Mohammed bin Hammam was an executive committee member, like the rest of the 23 executive committee members that were present at the time. We had to engage with him as we had to engage with everybody else. So definitely there was engagement with him. Was he part of our bid? He was not a part of our bid. Did he represent us? Not at all.
Do you think it's fair for people from the same country who have the same interests to be helping each other? I mean, that's not a crime, is it?
First of all, we have to remember that we had to engage with him. We had to convince him. And it's no secret that at the very beginning he was quite skeptical about a World Cup in Qatar. But then when he saw the merits in a compact World Cup. He saw the merits of what we can give back to the world of football. I think just like we convinced the others, he was convinced as well.
Have you and your committee at any stage done anything that you are worried about that is wrong?
No.
And what's Mr. Garcia said to you? I know that you've met him. What kind of indication has he given you? Are you worried that ultimately this World Cup is going to be taken away?
We're not worried. We're confident that the World Cup will take place in Qatar.
If anyone does try to take it away, because it might not just be about Qatar, it might be the infamous FIFA politics that are involved too, that we can't shy away from. If anyone does try to do that, what would your move be then? And would it involve some kind of legal aspect?
Look, I don't want to jump the gun, and I don't want to anticipate things that we don't know. We're focusing on delivery. We're focusing on learning from the Brazil World Cup. We're focusing on getting as much information as we can from here. And you just have to be confident and focused. That's all you can do.
With the negativity and criticism, I've noticed over the months and years of how diplomatic you've been, the whole committee, and have you've held your counsel. Please talk to us about that for our viewers around the globe. Is it partly cultural? Because what happens is that people sometimes see a silence on an issue or a delayed response to an issue as some form of admission of guilt.
That's partly it. Yes, I have to admit, culturally, there is a culture of modesty, and with modesty means that sometimes you don't engage publicly, and especially if sometimes you feel that this engagement will bring you down to a level that you don't want to stoop down to. A lot of the reporting has been mudslinging, a lot of the reporting has been allegations that have been sensationalized, and we just don't want to be part of it. We don't have time for it, and we measure exactly where we make our responses and when, and we measure it and we make sure that we're doing it at a level that is fitting. And what I mean by that is, if you open the door to this mudslinging, you'll never be able to get it shut.
How difficult is it for you to deal with this public relations-wise? Because surely a part of Qatar having and hosting the World Cup is about the image of Qatar. So if you're getting people criticising, it kind of defeats the object in one aspect of it.
In the short term, yes. In the long term, I think that this phase that we've been going through since 2010, I think will be important, and an important phase, because it brings attention to something that we've said from the very beginning, is changing the perception, is bridging cultural differences. And in my belief, the cultural differences are being magnified right now. And this is, if this wasn't magnified at this stage, then we wouldn't be able to achieve that goal later down the line. And we've always said that, you know, a World Cup will be a celebration of cultures. And I think the fact that Qatar by nature, geographically where it's located, the demographic mix, the people that will be working and managing the World Cup in Qatar is going to be such a diverse group of people. The people that are going to be converging to Qatar is going to be such a diverse group of people. I mean, let me put it this way. People say Qatar is small. Yes, Qatar is small. However, we're 4 hours away from 2 billion people. Nobody considers that. So these 2 billion people are going to be from various cultures, various ethnicities, various people from different parts of West Asia, the Middle East, North Africa. And I think it's going to be rich and vibrant, and that will be the time where people are going to realize that they're mingling with people in the Middle East, celebrating the common language of football, which is going to be absolutely great. You take that into comparison. People criticize Brazil for other reasons. They came here, it was great. People had fun. It's a rich culture. It's a great place to watch football, to interact with people, to see the diversity and the richness of this country and of this continent. And I think the Middle East, a country that's a region that's so misunderstood, will play that role beautifully.
People constantly talk about Qatar hosting this World Cup in isolation. They didn't with South Africa. They talked about an African tournament. With Brazil, sometimes they talked about a South American tournament. But people just talk about Qatar and are forgetting the aspect of the first World Cup in the Middle East. The head of the Asian Confederation, Sheikh Hammam, was quoted as saying that some of the attacks on Qatar are racist. What's your view on that?
I mean, I pose this question back to the people who have been continuously attacking and continuously, openly undermining our bid and the World Cup in the Middle East. Is it racist? I don't know.
I've noticed you've been talking more about a Middle East World Cup. Is that tactical to actually remind people of exactly what's going on in 2022?
It's not tactical. It's something that we've said from the very beginning, since our bid. Don't forget that the Middle East had 3 attempts prior to ours. And this is just a continuation for us of trying and attempting to host the first World Cup in the Middle East, and we succeeded. And therefore, we stay committed to what we've said, that we want this truly to be a World Cup that represents the Middle East, that people experience a Middle Eastern culture, not just a Qatari culture.
And what about the security aspect? How safe will this World Cup be? Can it be?
I believe it's going to be very safe. Let's not forget, Qatar is the safest country in the Middle East and Africa right now, number 16 worldwide. And we're working closely with Interpol, we're working closely with ICSS. They're working on a security resilience plan, and that entails everything from petty crime to terrorist attacks. I think every mega event has to take these measures in place. There have been mega events in the past that took place in other parts of the world that were subject to terrorism attacks. And everybody has to be prepared and make sure that they have these plans in place. And that's one thing that we did here in Brazil. I mean, we've had a contingency of 150 people from Qatar in 5 different host cities on a 10-day observation program in collaboration with FIFA, the host cities, the local organizing committee, and included within those observation groups were people from the army, from the military, from security forces in Qatar, to see how security is being handled here, what measures are put in place here, to get the key learnings and take them back to make sure that we have them and are able to implement them.
And have the changes to the laws on migrant workers that have come in over the last few months, have they made enough progress? Have they gone far enough?
I think the progress that was made in the time, I think, are tremendous. And I think, people need to keep in mind Qatar and the progress of Qatar and the evolution of Qatar. In the past 30 years, what Qatar has achieved is what some Western European countries have achieved in 150 years. That includes laws as well. And labor laws are enmeshed within these laws. So what happens also, I believe, with a country that progresses so quickly and population-wise progresses so quickly. So Qatar is, if not the fastest, the second fastest growing country in terms of population. And economically also is the fastest growing country. And with that, you will definitely get imbalances. That means maybe some things don't progress as quickly as some other things, and some things need to catch up. And unfortunately, some laws need to progress and need to catch up with the other developments that are taking place. And this is a natural evolution of any country. We welcome the headlines, we welcome the pressure, but it's got to be constructive. It's not just we found a reason to bash Qatar, and we will continue bashing Qatar. And if this reason no longer exists, we'll find another reason. No, we want and we work with Amnesty International. I have to say. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, we work with them. I find them fantastic. They're very collaborative, they're very constructive, they're critical when they have to be, and we like working with them. And let's not forget, we work closely with the ILO. The government works with all these organizations, and I think the work done so far has been great.
Now on the back burner, Winter World Cup and the confirmation that still hasn't happened. Now I sat down with Johan Valk of FIFA before this tournament, and I said to him, the issue of playing a World Cup in June, July, in summer, why during the bidding process? Did you not accept that there are times where bidding nations will need that tournament to take place in winter? Let's be honest about this. It cannot happen in summer. You've put all of this work into the technology. You've done everything that's asked of you. It's not going to happen. It'll happen in winter. Why did FIFA let you have to deal with that and not acknowledge that a World Cup can be changed because it's the most important tournament in football?
Let's be honest, we can host a World Cup in the summer. I disagree with your comment. However, and you know this because you've spoken to the Secretary General of FIFA, Jerome Valk, we're waiting on the task force to come back and make their recommendations, and we're waiting for a decision that will be made by, whether it's the Congress, whether it's by the Executive Committee, I don't know. We're waiting for that decision to be able to implement and go forward. Our plans won't change. Our plans are, we're going to be ready for the World Cup in 2022, whether that be the winter or the summer of 2022.
Something that I never hear anyone mentioning, certainly outside of Qatar, is the fact that you'll have a team in the tournament. And that preparations for that, you can't just snap your fingers and have a brilliant football team. Have you been keeping an eye on the start of the process to have a really competitive team there in 2022, which I feel a lot of people would just willfully ignore because, well, Qatar's not going to have a strong team, are they? And that's unreasonable of them.
I've naturally, and as for me, something I personally do is I always follow the national team and I always follow the youth teams. And I've been keeping an eye on them, and I'm quite happy with what I've been seeing so far. I think the work that Aspire is doing, I think the work that they're doing with the clubs, I think what the national team is doing, I think is quite commendable. Qatar has its challenges. A population of less than 300,000, to try to filter out and find the nuggets of gold for a football team is quite challenging. However, let's not forget that in 1981 in the Youth World Cup in Australia, Qatar came in second place. They lost to Germany after beating Brazil and after beating England. So things can happen. I believe in them. And I've been watching this youth team. I've been watching the under-17 teams as well. I think we have some good players, and I think the work that's being done is quite good. And hopefully we will qualify prior to the 2022 World Cup. We'll qualify to Russia in 2018.
In your heart and in your head, do you feel 100% certain that Qatar will host the 2022 World Cup?
Yes.